Hi, my name's Robert. I come to you as an automobile enthusiast that have maintained, serviced, and repaired my own vehicles in excess of 30 years. I've had a car that lasts over 400,000 miles. The current car that I'm driving has over 220,000 miles on it. It's a 95 model. So I hope you can benefit from the information I share. Thanks for tuning in. On a Dodge Caravan, it was showing signs of a coolant leak. First time I came by, there was some residue around the cap. I thought the cap might have been leaking, so I went and bought a new cap, about 25 bucks, put it on. A few days later, they're seeing more coolant, so the radiator must be leaking in there somewhere. It only has two hose connections, an inlet and an outlet, and it's dripping all along the front edge of the van. So I'm pretty sure that it's just leaking out of the radiator somewhere, getting on that cap and dripping down through there. And kind of good thing we did buy a new cap, because when I purchased a new radiator, it does not come with a cap. So the first thing I'm going to do is check and make sure that it looks like this radiator is a match. Okay, that's the new radiator there. It's got the filler on one side, top hose on the other side, and the bottom hose on the same side with the cap. So when I look at the vehicle, it's got the cap on this side, the bottom hose on that side, the top hose on this side. So I believe I have the right part. Normally when I do anything, I go ahead and disconnect the negative battery cable just to be on the safe side. I don't hit anything electric, but I really don't see anything that close that could be electric to this radiator. And from what it looks like, I'm going to have to take the bumper loose at these two locations, a couple of push pins, and looks like a couple of 10 millimeters. So I'll pull that loose. Then I have this cowling that comes across here. So I got a couple Phillips here, 5 Phillips, and then I'm going to take this cowling off, and then I should have access to take the radiator loose. Okay, my next step is to drain the radiator. As you can see down there, there's a little drain cock there. So I'm going to crawl under the van, put a splash pan under there, open up that drain cock on the old radiator, crack the cap loose, and drain the fluid into a pan, a clean pan. Okay, I opened up that lower drain cock down there and didn't get any fluid flow, so it may be clogged. So I'll have to pull the lower radiator hose on the other side. I did open up the top of the radiator, still no flow. While down there, I notice I have 2 fans on the back of the radiator. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this negative battery cable. It's got a 10 millimeter on it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is take the front of the top of the bumper loose and remove that cowling with those Phillips screwdrivers. Looks like a couple 10 millimeters and a couple of clips. Next thing I'm going to do is pull this bracket off, and I got 2 10 millimeter screws there. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the hood latch bracket. It's going to be in the way of getting the radiator out. Okay, I took out the hood latch and released the cable from there and laid that back on the hood, and I put the screws there so I wouldn't lose them. Next thing I'm going to do is try to get those 2 fans disconnected. Next thing I'm going to do is disconnect that overfill hose running across the top of the radiator. Okay, to get the fans off, I'm going to pull this bolt here up top, pull this here bolt up top. They're both 10s, and then I'm going to go from there to see what else I got to disconnect to get the fans out. Okay, I see a little plug there for the electrical on this fan, the same on the other fan, so I'm going to try to release those latches and unplug those electricals on the fans and see if they lift out. Had a hard time unplugging the driver's side fan, so I looked down there. I was able to lift the fan out of the bracket, lay it back against the exhaust manifold. It looked like I'll be able to get the radiator out without totally removing those fans. So next thing I'm going to do is take this little splash panel off across the radiator. It's got some tabs there. I'm going to pull up and try not to. Alright, I was able to get those clips out without breaking them. I slid a screwdriver under it until I got to the post. Then I pried it up. So it was 3 little pins and then your center bracket there, and that lifts out. Now you can see the radiator sitting in there. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the lower hose to drain the radiator, since the other drain is clogged. Okay, the hose clamp was kind of a pain to get to, but I finally got it twisted around and squoze it with a plier so that it locked itself in. Then I slid it down, so got a little bit of coolant dripping out of there now, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull that hose loose. But if you have some long needle nose pliers, that sure would make that process a lot faster. The long hook needle nose pliers, I didn't bring them with me. Okay, I took that hose clamp loose on the driver's side, so I'm gonna pull that hose loose. Then the last thing it looks like I have is a little bracket, 10 millimeter here, and one on the other side over there, and that should loosen this radiator so it can be lifted out. Okay, once I got those two top 10 millimeters out on the end, it was kind of tricky getting the radiator out because the condenser stuff down here has a nipple down there that sits on top of the radiator. It has a nipple on this side that sits on top of the radiator. So I had to pull this stuff up, keep the radiator pushed down, and swing the radiator back toward the motor to get that unhooked. And then I was able to work the radiator up through the top. So it's a little tricky, and it looks like I got a rubber radiator bump stop there that I need to pull off the radiator, and the same down there. And as you can see, the fans are still in there. So here's the radiator pulled out. Looks like a fan was hooked in there, and on the back side of it you may be able to see that hole that air conditioner condenser whatever rests in, and there's still some coolant in the radiator. And here's the hole on this side that stuff was resting in. So when I put the new one in, I'm gonna make sure I hook that stuff back up, and I'm gonna get these mounts. I got a mount right here that's on the bottom of this radiator that I'm gonna pull off of there. Don't forget to put those rubber mounts on there. They stop the radiator from getting damaged. And this is the drain cock that didn't drain for some reason, so I guess it's plugged up a little bit. So it wouldn't be a bad time to flush the radiator after you get the new one on. One thing on the job on the radiator that I overlooked, inside the box, the lower mounts for the radiator and those lower clips were down in there. So and two of those upper clips for those screws. So look close in the box, see if there's any hardware in there. The mount that I put on there was in good shape, so it should be fine as long as they're on this vehicle. But do check the box for the new part. I didn't mean flush the radiator, but I mean flush the coolant system. So I'm gonna go ahead, take them rubber bumper stops off, put them on the new radiator, and start back with the assembly. Alright, I got two clips on the bottom of the rad that I'm gonna have to pull off and put on, because those will hold the fans in place on the new radiator. Okay, looking at the old rad and the new rad, I need these two screw clips as well. For some reason, the 10 millimeter ones for the side is on the new one, but it wasn't these top clips and not these bottom clips. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these and put them on the new one. Okay, I got the radiator in. It was a little hard working that lower hose dimple past the air conditioning line, but I got that in. Then I got the two bolts on the front side, 10 millimeter. It was a little bit hard getting this one lined up, so I had to loosen the bracket on, I think, the trans cooler. I got that in. Now I got those clips down at the bottom of the fan, and you clip the bottom in there and then clip the sides in. You do that on both fans, get it down the bottom, and then clip it on the sides. I got the upper hose attached, and I got the lower hose attached and clamp down there. So the next thing I'm gonna do is bolt my two fans on right there. Okay, I went on ahead and put this little splash little piece of trim on. Next I'm gonna put on the top brackets for the hold the radiator against the frame of the car. Okay, I got the two 10 millimeter bolts in there, and I clipped the release cable back in its clip. The next thing I'm gonna do is put that shroud across the top there, and I should be ready to fill the system up. Again, if you want to flush it, this would be a good time to flush it. You got a new radiator. We've been running clean fluid through there. We put a new water pump on not long ago, so we're not going to flush it. We're just going to add some new fresh coolant. Okay, since we have been mixing some distilled water in the system, chasing the leak, I put full strength gallon in there. Then I put about a quart of distilled water in there. You never want to use tap water. Tap water can cause internal corrosion. Then I took some of the stuff I drained out of the motor and filled up the overflow reservoir. And then I'm going to use the balance of that, and I'm going to put it in a coolant bottle for if they need it in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the battery negative cable, start the car up, take it around the block so it can get warm and burp the system. And the next couple of days they'll watch the coolant level in that overflow tank, and it should be good to go. Okay, I think I'm all done. The tools I used was a long curved nose, needle nose pliers, 10mm ratchet, 10mm screwdriver. Most of the things were 10mm. I used a Phillips screwdriver to get that cowl off across the top. I also used a flat tip screwdriver to get some things worked loose, and not much other than a 10mm through this whole process. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that fan back up, because I unplugged one of those fans, lock those in place, and that should be it. It took me 2 hours to do the job. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. Go ahead and subscribe to my page so you will get notification of future videos that I post. You can feel free to visit my website, robertspano.com, post questions, and thanks again for watching.